Okay, so this composition is one that comes from my first album called Duskfire. Um, Now, just for some context, Duskfire was an album I wrote because I wanted to write music for video games and movies, but didn't actually have a video game or movie to write for. So I ended up writing an album, imagining that it's for a video game anyway. So every song on the album kind of follows a journey through a kind of fantasy world of the main character going up this mountain to reach the top as a rite of passage. And this song called The End, which is basically after the main character has reached the top and everything kind of comes together for them. So let's just take a listen to it. There you go, the end. All right, let's break this down. Oh boy, okay. First, starting off, we have that big hit in the middle. That's a bell, a kettle drum, and a bass drum. And then we've got these strings and this brass that comes in. Now, the whole point of this section was to kind of slow down from the previous song, which was actually quite a sad song, and create this kind of, it cleansed the emotional palette. And it's not strictly to a beat like the rest of the song is, but it's kind of this long flowing section. And as we get to the end of that, then our little mazzicato string stabs start coming in. Now these strings follow the chord progression that pretty much the rest of the song loops through. And while compositionally that sounds very simple, I just felt it worked in this place. So this song, rather than building intensity through new chord progressions and things like that, it builds intensity by adding instruments and by having other instruments kind of play over the top. So our strings have come in, and then we bring in the banjo, which is probably the most complex instrument in the whole song, like melody-wise. So if we just listen to the banjo. Now, your first thought might be, why include a banjo in an orchestral arrangement, especially when it's trying to be epic like this? You're right, that's a very strange choice. But the reason is because one of the first songs on the album uses a banjo as a kind of setting out from home and starting off on an adventure kind of instrument. And so I wanted this to work sort of like a leitmotif or a motif, but it doesn't work like that melodically or harmonically, but just using the banjo as an instrument kind of calls back to that first song. So we have that banjo playing over the top of these strings, and then gradually we bring in volume of more strings in these kind of tremolo string chords that follow the chord progression, and it starts creating a grander scale to the piece. And this keeps going until we have this silence and a breakdown right here. And that's when we bring in these drums, these strong marching drums that are very interesting rhythmically, and just set this real exciting upbeat feel for the piece. And we've also got bells in there that are repeating, and that just keeps going. Just keep going forwards. Then we added some harp, which is subtle but just adds some more layers of sound. And then eventually we go to here, where the mood slightly changes, and the sound of the horns is a bit more like less of fully empowered and more like remember all the challenges that we went through on this journey. And so they follow the progression but also change it slightly with the top line of melody. Now it starts changing a bit more frequently, again building up energy. And slowly what we're doing underneath is bringing in the choirs here as well, because what happens is the horns build up and then drop off and just leave room for only the choirs, which is how I really wanted to end this song. So we're left with this heavenly chorus of choirs with 4 or 5 different voices interweaving with each other. The bottom one is following the same chord progression, but the rest of them are moving about, getting more rapid as it builds up, becoming melodically interesting, and eventually they all kind of build up together to strike this final chord right here. And that is the end of the end, and we have that one last hit there, which is the exact same hit that we had at the start. So yeah, that is the end. It was meant to feel empowering. It was meant to feel grand, and it was meant to take elements from all the other songs of the album and wrap them up really nicely into this final package that leaves the listener feeling like they've finished the journey and accomplished and just feeling good. So that's the end.